Hey guys, for today's video I'm going to be filming a short video talking about my experience with showing self-harm scars and some tips and advice for what to do if you're thinking about doing it, and just some different perspectives that you can think about before you decide to do that. So if you're interested, keep on watching. I have a whole playlist of self-harm videos and specifically mental health on this channel. I also have Instagram and TikTok if you'd like to check that out. My link tree is down below. And thank you so much for subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, as it would really help me out. So for me, this is something that has definitely taken a long time for me to get to a place where I feel comfortable showing my arm or showing my legs. Predominantly most of the scarring that I have is mainly on both of my legs, and so I do have scarring on this arm, but it is a lot less noticeable in a way than my legs. But this is something that has definitely taken me a good amount of time and a few years, and I wanted to point that out first off because this is not something that I just woke up and had the confidence to do. So if you're struggling with finding the confidence, or you feel really unsure or really scared about showing your self-harm scars, I totally can relate. And I also wanted to preface this video by saying that you in no means have to show your arms or your legs or wherever your scarring is. You do not have to. It is totally up to you, and it's your body, and you can choose whether you want to show that or not. So I have made a video talking about what you can say if people ask questions about self-harm scars. I've also made a lot of other content relating to hiding self-harm scars if that's what you wish to do. This video is only going to be talking about my experience with other people looking at them, or you know, just different situations, and some tips also at the end of some things that have helped me or what you could do. So for me, I have come into only a few situations where this was kind of made a bit more obvious, and this was actually quite lucky for me. So I would say one situation where I felt quite uncomfortable with having my arms out was, and this is quite surprising, but the first time I was in hospital, I was doing like a DBT inpatient group. So in the morning for like an hour or an hour and a half, we would go into like a separate room, and like it'd be like the ward, but then there'd be like a room where we would go, and with like a allied health staff member, we would do DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. So this had like mixed, the ward was mixed of male and females and different ages. Obviously there were like nursing staff and everything there, so it was like safe or whatever. Also, like, this was private, so I'm not really sure how public system works, but for this they had a DBT program. So I was doing the DBT program, and in the group there was actually this guy, and he was really nice and everything, so I'm not saying this was like a bad situation, but I just felt a bit uncomfortable because afterwards I was talking to him, like we had this session or whatever, and he was probably only a few years older than me as well, but he had obviously maybe never come in contact with somebody who had self-harm scars, and the scars that I had at the time, because I'd just been admitted to hospital because of BPD issues, and the scars I had were very obvious, like they were extremely new, very obvious, and up until then I would normally keep it covered, but because I was in hospital and I was feeling really unwell, I didn't really care too much. So, you know, I had my arms out, and after the session I was actually quite uncomfortable, thinking like, oh, maybe I should cover up, like I'm not sure. But afterwards I was talking to this guy about something that wasn't even related to really mental health, but something we had in common, and I could tell the whole conversation, he kind of was, the poor guy, like he was trying to avoid looking at my arm, but I could tell the entire conversation that his eyes would like invertedly kind of staring at my arm and then looking back up, and I could tell that he was like looking and stuff, and like it wasn't coming, like, this guy was really nice and everything. We did have a really great chat. And I actually got to see this person one more time when I came back to do like an outpatient program, but I never saw him again after that. But I thought it was like, looking back, it was kind of a bit of a funny situation, but like at the time I did feel a bit uncomfortable because I was like, oh, like, you know, this person was really trying hard not to look, but he couldn't help himself. And I have never actually had a situation where this has happened, where somebody has just really obviously been looking. You know, I think most people tend to kind of look at scars, or you know, somebody has some sort of disfigurement or something going on, and they tend to have a quick look and then they'll look away because they don't want to embarrass the person, and you know, they might feel uncomfortable, they don't want to make the person feel uncomfortable. But this situation was very different because this person just kept looking the whole conversation, and I knew what he was looking at, and I kind of, yeah, just felt like saying, like, do you want to like ask me about this? Because, you know, he was obviously like looking. And so that was one situation I came into contact with. I would say the other times where I felt more uncomfortable was probably when, honestly, when I've been around older people. So when I mean older people, I mean people generally over the age of maybe like 60. And this is purely, well, I kind of just think this is because these people may not have ever come in contact with self-harm, and it's not something that they might understand because of generational issues. You know, a lot of people who are even over, you know, even in their 40s or 50s, definitely didn't grow up in a time when mental health was being embraced and talked about. And especially for people who are 60 or older, a lot of the time back then when they were younger, mental health was not understood at all, and there was a lot of mistreatment around people who had mental illness or even disabilities. And there were even, I'm pretty sure there were even asylums and stuff probably still open at this time. And so there was a lot of like negative connotation around mental health, and you know, a lot of older people probably haven't gone through anything like that or kind of witnessed particularly something like self-harm. And so, and I know that people of all ages can self-harm, but generally I think people in this age gap tend to have a harder time maybe understanding mental health issues, or that's just what I've experienced in my own life, because I know even my own grandparents, they're very supportive. On one side, my grandparents, they, you know, support my mental health, but they definitely don't know a lot of my mental health, and we do keep this part of my mental health to ourselves just because we know that it would just be too much and they wouldn't understand. You know, and so that's also another thing, is that, you know, if you're going to be showing your scars, maybe if you go out, there may be older people who unfortunately may give you looks, funny looks, or looks of even disgust. And I know that sounds really terrible, but it's just because they don't understand. And a lot of the time when you're showing self-harm scars, I think people are just very confronted and they're very confused by it. I mean, when you're someone who struggles with this and you've been in the mental health community, or you've been in hospital and you've been in settings where this is very normalized, or even yourself, if you struggle with this for years, it becomes very normalized. And, you know, for me, I mean, obviously this is my body, I can't change it. I've been struggling with, if you've never seen my channel, I've been struggling with self-harm and mental health issues since I was around 13. So, well, cutting in particular, but self-harm even prior to this. And so this is something that's been in my life for a very, very long time. So this is something where extremely kind of normalized to me because it's been my life. I mean, I am in recovery now, but you know, it's been a very consistent thing in my life, very problematic at times, but at the end of the day, I wake up and I see my body with scars on it, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's my body. Like, it's very normal to me. And I sometimes forget, I think that other people, it's not normal, and that other people maybe don't understand. So that's something to keep in mind. But unfortunately, I have found with older people, the general kind of reaction can be either like disgust, and because they don't understand, or they think, you know, they have negative connotations with mental health, or the second one would be probably more confusion, or maybe even comments or asking questions. I'd find another thing to consider is if you're going, if you're going to be showing your scars. I'm just trying to think of situations. So for me personally, generally I don't really show my arms, and I'm not going to go into detail about this because I've spoken about this in my last video, but I don't really particularly show my scars if I'm going to be in a situation where I don't really know the people, or it's my first impression, or I feel like I don't know, like it's not people I'm gonna be like getting close to or seeing regularly. But I did have an instance, and I've talked about this before, where I went out with the group, and most of the people in the group I was really close with and I've known for a really long time, and they already know about my mental health things. But there were a couple of people in the group who didn't really know, but I want to say that the way they reacted was there was no reaction, which was, for me, made me feel really comfortable, because there was no staring, there was no comments, nobody made me feel any different. It was like I didn't even have anything worthy to look at, if you know what I mean. And it was a very positive experience, because nobody even commented, no one looked at all, and it was really positive. But this was because I think these people were in their 20s, and I feel like, I'm about 21, so I feel like people in this age group, teenagers and people in their 20s and 30s are definitely more accepting and understanding of what self-harm is. They know what it is, or at least, even if they don't know, people tend to not comment. Like, a lot of people go through mental health stuff, and it's very widely accepted and talked about now. And so that's why I was saying about the older generation, where they may have a harder time understanding, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how they were brought up. And so, yeah, there are some situations that I've been in. In regards to other times when I've been in hospital, nobody has ever looked, no one has ever commented. There were other people in there at times who also had scars, so it was kind of, obviously, like, when it comes to things like professional experiences, I will say one experience, and I don't want to put people off, but for instance, when I was in hospital, like the nurses and allied health staff were, obviously very professional. I mean, you'd hope they would be, but I have had one time where was very, very negative, and it was when I was seeing a private psychologist, and I was actually paying a gap fee to see this person. And I was paying to see the psychologist, and I'd seen her about 4 times, I think 3 times, and she was older, but she was a psychologist who'd studied extra to, she'd done 6 years plus like another thing to specialize in like this forensics. So this is a person who's been in the psychology industry for an extremely long time, had experience, whatever, but this person, the psychologist, was very, very unprofessional and would be very inappropriate about the self-harm that I had, active self-harm, and even with scarring and stuff, and made a lot of really horrible comments about my self-harm and scars and stuff, and just a bunch of things. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was just really like unprofessional, inappropriate, uncalled for, and it made me feel extremely uncomfortable. And back then, when I was seeing this person, this is quite a while ago, I was kind of new to the mental health industry, and so, like, as a client, and I didn't really know that this wasn't what they're supposed to do. So when I told one of my friends at the time, who'd been in the mental health services for a long time, she was like, no, that is so bad, you really should stop seeing her. And so I did, but there was other issues apart from that, but that was just a really negative experience that I unfortunately had with somebody who's supposed to be a professional. So I want to say that just because people are in the role of nursing or counseling or psychology or psychiatrists or whatever, it doesn't mean that they may not always act how they're supposed to. And unfortunately, there's going to be people in this industry, like in any industry, where you encounter them and they're not doing their job right. And that's really unfortunate. And yeah, but that really affected me because I felt like this is supposed to be a person I'm meant to feel safe with, and they're behaving like that. The other instances that I've had in regards to real life, I mean, I've had quite a lot, but I'm just giving you some from each different area. But when it comes to friends, people I've been friends with have been amazing. Nobody's ever made a deal out of it. Often a lot of my friends have mental health issues themselves. Even if it's not as severe as mine, they still can understand. I've actually had a lot of people who I've been friends with over the years say to me that they actually had an experience of self-harm, and they never told anyone, but they told me because they felt like they felt safe telling me that. So, you know, that was actually a positive thing because they were able to share something with me that they hadn't told anyone, and they obviously felt safe enough to do that. So there can be positives coming out of this, and you know, I think the only situation where I'm a lot more careful is when it comes to children, and everyone has their own view. I think if it's your own children, it's completely different. You know, I don't have kids yet, but when I do, and I'm hoping to have kids one day, but I wouldn't cover my body up because I think it's a really good, you know, way to be able to introduce mental health. And I think there's a very tactful and careful way you can still explain it to them, like in a way of, a line that I often would use if it was a kid and they asked me, I would just say, oh, that was from when, you know, I was, you know, very sick, but I'm all better now. That's something that I would say to them. And as they get older, you can then maybe explain it a bit better. But, you know, I would consider it just depending on the situation. But in general, kids are very, very accepting, and kids do point out things and comment about things, but it's gone after like a second. You know, kids are very fleeting, they don't judge, there's really no judgments, and they're very like pure at heart. So, you know, I think every situation is different. Some tips I have if you're deciding on showing scars is, like I said, with all these experiences, you have to be ready to receive maybe some stares or some comments, and you have to think to yourself, am I in a place where I feel strong enough to accept that people might look or point or comment? And it really depends on, you know, the situation or maybe the people you're around or how severe your scarring is. It all depends on different things. But am I feeling okay enough even in this moment or today? Do I have a backup plan? Maybe I should take a cardigan with me. I always do this. I bring like a cardigan or a jumper or whatever with me, so if I start feeling uncomfortable, I have a backup. If it's with my legs, do I feel comfortable today wearing shorts? Is it something where I'm not feeling so anxious and I can go out and deal with it? Whatever the case is. So think about those things, ask yourself those questions, and if you bought something where it's clothing and you just want to wear that because you've been waiting and waiting to wear it, I would say go for it. Like, you deserve to be happy in the clothes that you want to wear. And so they would be my tips just for, like, you know, things to consider before showing it. But I hope you found this helpful and maybe even relatable. I would love for you to comment any experiences you've had, whether it was negative or positive, because I always am very interested in hearing other people's experiences. Please comment it and share. And thank you so much for watching my video. If you have any video suggestions on mental health topics or self-harm related videos, leave it down below and I'll also get to that. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!